Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and many of us face the reality of living with a mental illness. It's no different than a simple cold, but so often when our minds are sick, there's shame attached to it.
And experts say the stigma is much stronger for Black men. And this morning, our Justin Andrews joins us in the studio to unpack some of the reasons some Black men resist therapy.
Yeah, this is something that we first have to unpack the why. We understand that we live in a world that doesn't always want us. Mental health doctors tell me the very existence of a Black man creates trauma, like getting profiled, encounters with police, and sometimes not even getting hired as easily as our counterparts. This morning, you'll get to know a guy who started therapy 2 years ago, and it has changed his life.
In a small pocket of San Francisco's Union Square, Robert Paul is posted on the building's outside.
It's all about the little details.
But if you never search inside, you'll never find
Laquan X Bates.
He's a men's personal stylist, a visual manager in luxury retail.
There's something about somebody when they look good, they feel good, and they just present themselves differently in the world.
A brother knows his style.
It has honestly been life-changing.
For more than 10 years, Laquan has been changing the image of men.
What's up, Eric?
Helping them search for the perfect look. It was March 2020, COVID hit. Laquan realized he had to look past the clothes, the inside.
Something's got to give, and then that's when I reached out to my current therapist now.
For 2 years now, Laquan and his therapist have been styling his mental health, making sure it's buttoned up.
These thoughts, and then there's some trauma from like childhood that I kind of haven't really addressed in my adult life.
Licensed psychologist Dr. Bedford Palmer is helping clients do that too.
Primarily, I see people who are people of color, primarily Black people, actually primarily Black men at this point.
There's a stigma around Black men and mental health. He says less emphasis should be placed on whether Black men resist therapy and focus on the why.
There are a lot of messages that say that Black men are lacking in some way. That can get caught up in the way that we talk about mental health, as if Black men are doing something wrong.
Dr. Palmer says for decades, Blacks have been mentally and physically abused by society. It gets internalized, leaving racial wounds and trauma mentally. So it's not surprising to him that Black men harbor feelings of mistrust.
And we get caught up in this kind of concept of bootstrapping, where we're supposed to pick ourselves up.
Even with his clients, Laquan has no problem unbuttoning his story.
And just knowing who Laquan is, and that's something I didn't quite know before.
Undressing the importance of mental health in his life.
Beautiful.
Because no matter how good he makes his clients look on the outside,
I feel like $1 million.
the real image is making sure minds are mended.
Slow down and like really take care of my mental health.
And that's his peace of mind.
And this morning, kudos to Laquan for sharing with us, because honestly, unpacking something like this is not always easy, but it's necessary. Mental illness is real. It affects all of us, whether or not we choose to talk about it. Dr. Palmer told me the more and more we keep this conversation going, the more we begin to shatter that stigma. So this morning, we're talking about it.
Yeah, and I feel like the stigma is shifting a bit. I mean, looking at Facebook even, I see more and more of my friends saying, I went to therapy today. It's benefiting me and encouraging others to do the same.
Absolutely. Dr. Palmer said when COVID hit, he noticed that more and more people were coming and just admitting we need help when it comes to our minds. So that is so true. We're seeing that more and more often. People are just saying, hey, I need help, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And the access is there too now, is being able to do it from home. Therapy is a lot more accessible because you can just Zoom and find someone that way too.
Really good point. So let's talk about it. It's nothing wrong. We get everything else checked out with our bodies, but so often we forget to get our minds checked out. So we got to keep that in mind.
Great point there, and an important story as well. Justin, thank you so much. We appreciate it.